was definitely a great week of playoff football for the semifinals. Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and we are halfway there. We're halfway there for on the road to the Grey Cup. As last week, I made my two videos previewing the Eastern semifinal as well as the Western semifinal, where the Eastern semifinal had the Montreal Alouettes going to Hamilton to take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and in the Western semifinal, you had the Calgary Stampeders going to Regina to take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So now that we've gone through the semifinals, let's bring on the finals preview. And this is video 3, and we'll focus on the Eastern final, as the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they did successfully defeat the Montreal Alouettes 23-12. So it's the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They're off to Toronto to take on the Toronto Argonauts at BMO Field. This will be on Sunday, December the 5th. Yes, you heard right, December, as we are into December for the CFL playoffs, as that game will be on Sunday, December 5th, with a 10:30 a.m. Mountain kickoff or 12:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. They moved up the kickoff start times up a half an hour for both the Eastern and Western semifinal. So it'll be a little earlier. I'm not too sure if it'll make that much of a difference now that we are into December. So before I get to preview and break down this matchup, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, just make sure you hit like and subscribe. I have my other social links down in the description below. And I do have my Brett Hornby Shorts second channel, where I post my YouTube shorts on there exclusively. So I appreciate the like and subscribe here on my main channel and my second channel. So let's now preview the Eastern final for 2021. As mentioned, it will be the Battle of Ontario, the QEW, as I understand it's called, as the Hamilton Tiger Cats will be taking on the Toronto Argonauts. And then just quickly recap the East semifinal. As I mentioned, the Hamilton Tiger Cats won 23-12 over the Montreal Alouettes. How I'm going to remember this game is that Montreal had the momentum in the first quarter, but didn't capitalize and score any majors. Hamilton took over in the second quarter as they scored 20 of their 23 points in the second quarter. They took advantage of turnovers that the Montreal Alouettes had, and Trevor Harris, he definitely had a rough game, and the fact that the Montreal Alouettes suppressed the rushing attack of the Montreal Alouettes. So quick stats of the key players on both sides. For Hamilton, Jeremiah Mazzoli, he was 28 for 18 of 28. He only threw for 184 yards, had one touchdown, no interceptions, but Hamilton definitely won the field position game. With the turnovers, Don Jackson, the running back, he had 46 yards on 13 carries and one touchdown. Leading receiver was Brandon Banks. He had 5 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown, so Brandon Banks did come alive, and the big storyline was not only Hamilton stopped the rushing attack of William Staubach, they sacked Trevor Harris 6 times, so the defense definitely showed up. And then on the Montreal side of the ball, Trevor Harris, he was 28 of 44 for 364 yards, throwing a touchdown and an interception. I know Montreal also fumbled the ball a couple times. Here's the big storyline. William Staubach, he only had 29 yards on 12 carries, so that was the big storyline for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Eugene Lewis, he had 6 receptions for 129 yards and 1 touchdown. So Montreal had to go through the air because they lost momentum and the running game wasn't working. And Montreal had 5 turnovers. So that was big reasons why we're talking about the Hamilton Tiger Cats taking on Toronto Argonauts. So that's just a quick blurb about the East semifinal. So now when it comes to the team records on how do we get here? Well, the Toronto Argonauts, they finished first in the East Division with a 9-5 record, which gave them the right to watch the East semifinal last week to find out who they play. And then to break down the first in the East that much more, they were 6-1 at home. So the Toronto Argonauts definitely love playing at home, as they were 6-1. Second best record in the league. Only Winnipeg was perfect 7-0. And they are 6-2 versus the East. So definitely show that the Toronto Argonauts were the best team in the East. Now when it comes to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they finished second in the East. That's why they hosted the Eastern semifinal, as they were 8-6, second in the East. However, they were 3-4 on the road, and they are 4-4 against the division in the East. So this could be a big challenge for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, as they are not at home. Their motivation is they want to win this game so they can go back at home to play their Grey Cup at home, but the Toronto Argonauts are in the way with this heated rivalry. So now if we look at this season series, actually these two teams played each other 4 times, and definitely were a couple recent games. So the first game, Week 5, if you go back to Week 5, this was when the Labor Day Classic happened on Monday, September the 6th. The Hamilton Tiger Cats actually won that one 32-19, as the game was in Hamilton, as the tradition goes in the Labor Day Classic. And then on Week 6 was the big rematch. This happened on Friday, September the 10th. The Toronto Argonauts got revenge, but they only won by 1 point, 17-16. And then the third game, this happened on Week 10 on Monday, October 10th. That happened to be Thanksgiving Monday, as the game was in Hamilton. And the Toronto Argonauts won that one by 1 point, 24-23. I remember that one being a last-second field goal, and the Toronto Argonauts came back in the fourth quarter. And then the last week, time they played, which was Week 15, this happened on Friday, November the 12th. The game was in Hamilton, and the Toronto Argonauts won that one convincingly, 31-12. So the Toronto Argonauts actually were 3-1 in the season series, but 2 of those games, Toronto won by 1 point. So we might have a close classic matchup ahead, shall we? But let's break it down after we take a look at the playoff history and who has the advantage on each facet of the game, as I do in these videos. So playoff history, before this game, the last time that these two teams played in the playoffs, we'd have to go back to the 2015 Eastern semifinal. This happened on Sunday, November the 15th, as the game was in Hamilton. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats won that game 25-22. So this is back in 2015. And then the previous time before that, if you go back to the 2013 Eastern Final, so this will be the first time in 8 years that these two teams will play each other in the Eastern Final. And actually Toronto hosted the Eastern Final that year. This happened on Sunday, November 17th. However, the Hamilton Tiger Cats won that one 36-24. And then we look back to the previous 3, so the one furthest back would be in 2010 for the Eastern semifinal. This was on Sunday, November the 14th. The Hamilton Tiger Cats hosted that game, but the Toronto Argonauts won that one 16-13. So a couple of close games in the playoff history as well as the season series. So let's get something interesting to look at when it comes to the playoff history. And then obviously the last playoff win for the Hamilton Tiger Cats was the game last week. So we'll just take a look at the last playoff game win for the Toronto Argonauts. And I definitely know this win too well, because it resulted in my heart being broken as I was there live as the last playoff win, also the last game the Toronto Argonauts played in, because they missed the playoffs the last couple seasons, was the 2017 Grey Cup, the 105th Grey Cup in Ottawa, as the Toronto Argonauts defeated the Calgary Stampeders in the snow 27-24. Definitely know that one too well, as the Toronto Argonauts recovered a fumble as the Calgary Stampeders were looking to go up by 2 touchdowns with 3 minutes to go, and then rode the momentum and ultimately won that game with that last minute field goal, and both threw the interception in the end zone when we gambled, and I definitely know that too well. So that was the last win for the Toronto Argonauts. So now let's take a look at who's got the edge on each facet of the game when it comes to this matchup between the Toronto Argonauts and the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. So let's take a look at the quarterbacks. Basically, you have Jeremiah Mazzoli for the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. Backup Dane Evans. I expected that Jeremiah Mazzoli is going to start. However, I think it's time to finally give McLeod Bethel Thompson his due and respect, as ultimately he has taken over as the starting quarterback for the Toronto Argonauts, and especially when the Toronto Argonauts traded away Nick Arbuckle to the Edmonton Elks late in the season. That's definitely giving the anointment that you're the man. And both quarterbacks definitely have the capability to put up big yards, but I am going to give this one to Toronto. I think right now McLeod Bethel Thompson, and with this game being at home, I think the Toronto Argonauts have the edge. At quarterback, running back, well, this is where I have a disagreement with the CFL site. As running back, I can't really give anybody an edge. If John White was playing for the Toronto Argonauts, he would definitely give the edge to the Toronto Argonauts, as he is on the 6-game injury list. However, they still have this DJ Foster guy. And then when it comes to the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, they got Don Jackson and Sean Thomas Erlington. The CFL.ca website gives the edge to Hamilton. Me personally, I think it's a push. I think this is an even matchup, because DJ Foster, I think, is capable of putting up big yards as well. And Don Jackson right now is the starting running back for the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, but they've had a rotating door with injuries as well. So I'm going to give it a push when it comes to the running backs. Now when it comes to the receivers, I'm definitely seeing a little bit of a mismatch here. And being a Stampeders fan, definitely a lot of familiar names, especially Tavares Daniels and Eric Rogers. And Eric Rogers is definitely looking to get back into the lineup. However, Hamilton has like Stephen Dunbar Jr. and Braylon Addison as he returned to action. And of course, Brandon Banks. And then don't forget Curly Gittins Jr. for the Toronto Argonauts. I'm definitely going to give the edge in receivers to the Toronto Argonauts. Definitely the Eric Rogers. He definitely has a tendency to show up big in the playoffs, so Toronto has the edge. The offensive line, definitely would have to give this one to the Toronto Argonauts as well. The big guys up front. It's actually led by Peter Nicastro, who has been a stud for the Toronto Argonauts. He's born from here, as well as Darius Blake and Philip Blake. And then, of course, you still got Brandon Revenberg and Chris Enzel on the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. However, I think Hamilton, or Toronto, should say, overall has a better group when it comes to the offensive line. So when you're looking at the offensive side of the ball, I like Toronto in many areas, except the running back. I see it being an even matchup. So now, let's take a look on the defensive side of the ball for both sides and the defensive line. The front four or three, depending on who's deployed. I like this matchup. It's definitely going to be very fun to see who comes out on top. As the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, well, they're fresh off of stopping William Stanback, because that's the only team that was successful at really containing William Stanback and sacking Trevor Harris. So definitely liking Hamilton on that side. However, you got Toronto with Cordero Law, definitely another former Stampeder familiar with. However, I'm going to agree with CFL.ca website that the defensive line, that's a push. I think that's an even matchup coming in. So linebackers, this will be level 2 of the defense. Well, I'm going to like this one maybe towards the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. I mean, you got Chris Edwards for Toronto, Dexter McCoyle, but Simone Lawrence, he's definitely the heart of the linebackers for the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, as well as Javon Santos-Knox and Larry Dean and Justin Tuggle. Cam Kelly, I'm definitely going to give this one to the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. So if the Hamilton Tiger-Cats were able to take this game and be going back home to play in the Grey Cup at home, this could be a big part in the game. So the linebackers, defensive linebacks, I am going to give this one to the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. Now the defensive backs, the corners who are looking to potentially pick off some interceptions. Well, Delvin Browser and Rico Murray. You got Desmond Lawrence and Kerry Brooks. Tunde Adeleke. I think that's definitely a big group for the Hamilton Ticats. I'm definitely thinking they got all the big names in the secondary. So I'm going to give the defensive backs to the Hamilton Ticats. So on the offensive side of the ball, it favors the Toronto Argonauts. Defensive side of the ball favors the Hamilton Ticats. Kind of similar to last week when I looked at the Montreal Alouettes and the Hamilton Ticats. But the big X factor for this one is the Hamilton Ticats are on the road, while last week they were at home. So now if you look at special teams, first the return game, well, Frankie Williams can be explosive, but wasn't as big last week against the Montreal Alouettes. Then they also lost their younger Poppy White. Also come to be, but when it comes to the Toronto Argonauts, they got Chandler Worthy. So I'm definitely thinking the Toronto Argonauts have the edge. When it comes to the return game, so the last part of this breaking down the matchup is the kicking game. Who has the edge in the kicking game? Well, it seems like Hamilton has leaned towards Michael Demalaga to be their kicker, while Trey Burlett has been a punter. However, when it comes to kicking field goals and the fact that Toronto has won a couple of close games on the field goal with Boris Beatty, and the fact that he can kick the long one, I'm going to give the kicking game to the Toronto Argonauts. So special teams, I'll give this one to the Toronto Argonauts. So now, this part of the video, we'll take a look at this team will win if. So now with Hamilton being on the road, I am going to say Hamilton will win if Jeremiah Mazzoli. He has struggled to find his MLP form all season. He was looking like one of the most outstanding players last season in 2019 before he got hurt, and Dane Evans took over and ultimately led the Hamilton Ticats to the Grey Cup. But I think Hamilton will win if Jeremiah Mazzoli finds his MLP form. Hamilton will win if Brandon Banks comes alive again. I think Brandon Banks, he definitely is the stir that, that stirs the drink. The straw that stirs the drink. Every time it seems like Hamilton has a big game in the playoffs, it's because of Brandon Banks having a big game. He needs to come alive again if Hamilton is going to go home for the Grey Cup. And then the last part is I'm going to say if the defense for Hamilton once again suppresses the offense when it comes to the Toronto Argonauts, I'm going to have to say the bigger task for the Hamilton Ticats this week is now suppressing the passing game. As last week they were successful in the rushing game, I think it's going to be more if they can suppress the passing game. So those are the few points I have that I'm going to say Hamilton will win if. Toronto will win if, I'm going to say if Macbeth uses home field to his advantage. If McLeod Bethel Thompson definitely feels comfortable at home, spreads the ball around, especially cues in with a couple of former Stampeders like Eric Rogers and Darius Ayers and Deron Breskison, I'm going to say Toronto will win. Toronto will win if DJ Foster outruns Hamilton's running games. Whoever happens to be running the ball in this one, I'm going to say if DJ Foster has a big game, Hamilton will win. Or Toronto should say win. Toronto will win if Eric Rogers finds his neighborhood. If it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood for Eric Rogers, Mr. Rogers, like I have seen with the Stampeders, I think Toronto is going to win this one. So now with this game being outside, and now we're into December, weather is going to be a factor, and will weather be a factor in this one? And I always take a look at the weather forecast on Environment Canada, and they did say that there's chance of snow. A 70% chance of snow will happen at the Eastern Final. There were some snow flurries in the Eastern semifinal last week, but it didn't seem to play that much of havoc on the weather on other sides, but they're saying chance of snow and 2 degrees for high. Although with this game being, it will be 12:30 Eastern time when this game starts, they do forecast rain or snow for 1 degree for a low, but depending on what the weather is like, it could be a factor in this one with some precipitation. They say chance of snow, 70% chance, which means there's a better chance it's going to snow than not, and they're forecasting rain or snow for a low, so depends how the game goes and how far it goes. It could be a factor. So now, this is where I make my pick, my prediction and my confidence. So this is where the Wiz Smart Ball comes into play, as I start off the video with it being at daybreak. So now this is where I pick a couple colors. So if I pick the Hamilton Tiger Cats, it will be this color. And then for the Toronto Argonauts, it would be this color. So who do I have picking to be going to Hamilton for the Grey Cup? Will it be the Hamilton Tiger Cats, or will it be the Toronto Argonauts? Well, I'm going to pick the Toronto Argonauts with a 60% confidence. The reason why I picked the Toronto Argonauts to go to the Grey Cup this season, just on the fact that the games at home, Toronto has played their best ball at home, while Toronto seems to get the best out of the Hamilton Tiger Cats in these close games. And if this happens to be a close game, I think it will favor the Toronto Argonauts. I mean, Hamilton, of course, would be capable of winning this one, as they're definitely motivated and been on the mission to make up for last year losing in the big game, and the fact that the big game is in Hamilton. But I like the Toronto Argonauts to move on to play in the Grey Cup in Hamilton, just because it's at home. And so I only give it a 60% confidence, because I could see it go either way if a couple factors go the Hamilton's way, or if Toronto does not play to their full potential. So who do you have going to the Grey Cup out of the East in 2021? It's a team from Ontario. I'm 100% confident that a team from Ontario, especially in the southern part, will be going to the Grey Cup. That's the only thing I'm 100% confident with. But which one? Is it the Toronto Argonauts or the Hamilton Tiger Cats? So that is my preview of the Eastern Final in 2021 between the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Toronto Argonauts, the Battle of the QEW. So anyways, I'd like to say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, where I recap games and stories, but I'm also a CFL fan as well. I'm a fan of this league, and definitely think the league needs it a lot more, and I definitely am still going to enjoy the playoffs, because if you watch my West Final preview video, you'll know what I mean, why I'm still going to enjoy the heck out of the playoffs, even though the results said otherwise. But I also do a variety of non-sports kind of personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and also do short experiences on the road or a sporting event, and I've done some blogging on the go. So if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, you know what you do, just make sure you hit like and subscribe. I also have my other social links down in the description below, and don't forget, I have my Brett Hornby Shorts, where that is my second channel. Where on that channel, I exclusively put my short form content on there. Let's say, for example, after the East Final, I'll do a quick recap of who won that game and who stood out, and I'll do that for the West Final as well. I've already got my shorts up there for the semi-final games, so you can take a look at that. And I threw in a couple of bonus TikToks that I made. One about my prediction for the bracket, and my reaction to what happened to one particular game that happened last week. So I just want to say, enjoy the road to the Grey Cup. We are halfway there. This is the finals, so stay tuned to next week, where I'll preview the 108th Grey Cup, where either the Hamilton Tiger Cats or the Toronto Argonauts will represent the East in Hamilton. Of course, Hamilton would like to be there, but I could see the Toronto Argonauts being there as well, as I predicted. So I just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. In the next video, I'll preview the West Final. That will tee that up after I take a little break. So thank you.